Tom Gulley here on the Tom Gulley Show with another cold open. Before I tell you let me tell you about Keith Moon, bombastic, iconoclastic, legendary rock and roll drummer. Some have said the greatest rock and roll drummer of all time, whose offstage persona was even crazier than his skill with drumsticks. Yeah, we're going to tell you about that today. And we have explaining to do as always. If you're listening to us on an audio podcast, we're slowly growing our audio podcast audience. That's how this show started many years, 12 years ago, was as an audio-only podcast. We're going back to our roots. We'd love it very much if you like audio podcasts, if you'll give this one a try. However, it's also a live streaming YouTube program that's very, very interactive. So when I open the show, I have to wait for the chat room to fill up and for people to be notified all across the internets. The internets with the S on the end. So while that happens, I usually play some songs, and luckily for me and for you and for us, our musical director, Leon Kennedy, writes songs about me and the show that just happen to be incredible. Absolutely amazing. And with that in mind, I play those songs. People slowly file into the chat room, our audio podcast people, or people listening or watching to the YouTube show on demand. You can forward right through them and get to the meat of the show. However, if you're not careful, you might just like some of these songs. Like this next one I'm about to play right now. And then, let me tell you about Keith Moon.
Sometime in the night, somewhere past the evening light, there's a man talking just out of sight, making sense of the wrong and the right. Somewhere past the talking head, some time to ignore what they said. There's a chair, a desk, a glowing sign, and Tom Gulley's right on time. No scripts, no nets, no safety rails, just sharp ideas and strange little tales. You listen and you lean back slow and just let it go. We're in with Tom Gulley tonight, where the questions land just right. Laugh a little, think a little more than you did before. Happy we'll be when we hear the signals loud and clear. You won't be touching that dial once you're here. Sometime when you know he's there, somewhere in the evening air, there's a light, a clock, the studio glow, and Tom Gulley's running the show. Callers roll in, the clock spins around, truth and nonsense both get found. Every night's a brand new ride, with Tom as the guide. No scripts, no nets, no safety rails, just sharp ideas and strange little tales. You listen in, you lean back slow and just let it go. Till the sign off draws near. No chasing the race. Just Tom on the waves at a steady pace. Yeah, yeah, Tom's back. He's putting down the track. The Tom Gulley Show is back. He's putting down the track. Yeah, yeah, Tom's back. He's putting down the track. The Tom Gulley Show is back. He's putting down the track. Headphones on, the lights begin to glow. Every night he's got a story to show. From strange little moments to the things we all know. He lets it all breathe and he lets it all go. Laughter breaks through, then a pause, then a truth. From the good old days in a radio booth. Don't ask for facts, don't beg for proof. We dance in the dark to that gully groove. Yeah, yeah, Tom's back. He's laying down the facts. The Tom Gulley Show is back. He's laying down the facts. Yeah, yeah, Tom's back. He's laying down the facts. The Tom Gulley Show is back. He's laying down the facts. Oh yeah, yeah. Doesn't take much. Oh yeah, yeah. Doesn't take much. Oh yeah, yeah. Doesn't take much. Oh yeah. Tom's back. It doesn't take much. He's back. He's laying down the facts. Oh yeah, yeah. Doesn't take much. Oh yeah, yeah. Doesn't take much.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking? I know some of you are shaking your groove thing. If indeed you have a groove thing, you are shaking it. I know. Tonight, let me tell you about Keith Moon, legendary rock drummer, whose on-stage persona was just as crazy and wild as his off-stage antics. And I'll mention right now, so I don't forget, in the description of the show tonight, there is a link to the Who's recording of Who Are You? And if you've never seen Keith Moon, a lot of people, you might have seen a concert film or something like that. If you've never seen him, he's in it a lot. And you get, like, up close and personal, a real feeling for not only how great he was as a drummer, but just how crazy and wacky. He's actually got his headphones for the studio recording taped to his head because he is so all over the place, and the faces he makes and the intensity, it's wild. But before we get into all that, do me just a little bit of a favor. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. It only costs you a click. It helps us a lot with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing algorithm. And it would be a great favor if you would do just that one little thing. If you want to do more, we have super chats, we have memberships, we have gifted memberships, we have the PayPal, where you give the most, I get the most. Google don't get nothing. It's all in our YouTube description for every episode. And you got the TomGulleyShow.com, where our merchandise store is, and other podcasts. Our audio podcast is on Podbean. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. It's on iHeart. It's all over the place. It frankly, and I'm not even joking here, it's on places that I don't even know about. It's wherever fine podcasts are given away for free. So rock on with that. We have a chat room here. It is an interactive show, and boy, is it rocking tonight. Paused Up Patriot is here. The Chef is here as always. Sky is here. Turkatron is here. Mi Amiga. De los Todos Mundial. Goat is here. And Goat says, Keith Moon, literally the greatest drummer to ever live. Many people consider him the greatest rock drummer of all time. If not the greatest, certainly one of the greatest. The chef says Summer Rose and I are dancing to it, being silly. Well, good. That's what we're all about. Here on this show, we're all about dancing, and we're definitely about being silly. If past behavior is any measure of what we do around here. But let's get to it. Let me tell you about Keith Moon, obviously an English musician who was the drummer for the rock band The Who. As I mentioned, regarded one of the greatest, if not the greatest drummer in rock history. Noted for his unique style of playing and his eccentric, self-destructive behavior. He grew up in Wembley, which is an area of London, and took up the drums in the early 60s. He was recognized for his drumming style, which emphasized tom-toms, cymbal crashes, and drum fills. Throughout his tenure with The Who, his drum kit grew steadily in size, and along with Ginger Baker, those are the two everyone mentions. Those are the two that they call the greatest rock drummers and the earliest rock drummers to regularly employ double bass drums in their setup. He occasionally collaborated with other musicians and appeared in movies. Oh, yes. But he considered playing in The Who his most primary occupation and remained a member of the band until his all too early, untimely death. In addition to how well known he was for just being a drummer, like many members of The Who, he developed a reputation for smashing his drum kit on stage and completely destroying hotel rooms while he was on tour. He was very fascinated with blowing up toilets with cherry bombs or, yes, dynamite. And he also enjoyed destroying television sets. He enjoyed socializing, and he became very bored and restless when The Who were inactive. His 21st birthday party in Flint, Michigan has been cited as a notorious example of decadent behavior by rock groups. I'll get to the rest of this stuff. There's a lot of other things that I could get into, but we'll get into them a little bit later. Let's just start off with the fact that Keith Moon was born to motor mechanic Alfred Charles Moon and Kathleen Winfred Moon at Central Middlesex Hospital in northwest London. And he grew up in Wembley, as I mentioned. This is a photo right here of that hospital. He was hyperactive as a boy. Oh, yes, very hyperactive, with a restless imagination. And he loved music and a very kind of famous in England TV show, a comedy show called The Goon Show. Members of the Pot Awful cult will appreciate that. Peter Sellers was on The Goon Show. He studied at the Alperton Secondary Modern School after failing his 11+ exam, which is a test that gets you on to another level of school. His art teacher said in a report, and I'm using language here that the art teacher used. This is not my language. Retarded artistically, idiotic in other respects. His music teacher wrote that Moon has great ability, but must guard against a tendency to show off. He joined his local Sea Cadet Corps band at the age of 12 on the bugle, but he found it too difficult to learn and took up the drums instead. He was interested in practical jokes and home science kits, which he used to create explosions. On his way home from school, Moon would often go to Macari's Music Studio on Ealing Road to practice the drums there, learning his basic skills on the instrument. He left school around Easter 1961 at the age of 14. He then enrolled in Harrow Technical College, and this led to a job as a radio repairman, and that job allowed him to buy his first drum set. Moon took lessons from one of the loudest contemporary drummers ever, screaming lords such as Carlo Little at 10 shillings per session. His early style was influenced by jazz, American surf music, and rhythm and blues. And he really liked a noted Los Angeles studio drummer named Hal Blaine. His favorite musicians were all jazz artists, particularly Gene Krupa, whose flamboyant style he subsequently copied. I might also mention, just because I've interviewed so many people in my life, legendary Hall of Fame basketball coach Gene Cady. He also loves Gene Krupa. So Keith Moon and Gene Cady have something in common. He also admired Elvis Presley's original drummer, DJ Fontana. Moon also enjoyed singing with a particular interest in Motown. He idolized the Beach Boys. Roger Daltrey later said, the lead singer from The Who, that given the opportunity, Moon would have left to play for the Beach Boys even at the peak of The Who's fame. It was during this time he joined his first serious band, the Escorts, replacing his best friend, Jerry Evans. In December of 1962, he joined the Beachcombers, a semi-professional London cover band, playing hits by such groups as The Shadows. During this time, Moon incorporated theatrical tricks into his act, including shooting the group's lead singer with a starter pistol. The Beachcombers all had day jobs. Moon, who worked in the sales department at the British Gypsum, had the keenest interest in turning professional. And so it was in April of 1964, at only age 17, he auditioned for The Who as a replacement for their drummer. And a commonly cited story of how Moon joined The Who is that he appeared at a show shortly after the other drummer's departure, where just a fill-in drummer was used, dressed in red clothes with his hair dyed red. He claimed to his would-be bandmates that he could play better than the guy who was playing, and he played the set's second half, nearly demolishing the drum kit in the process. As Moon later recounted, they said, "Go ahead," and I got behind this other guy's drums and did one song, Roadrunner. I'd had several drinks to get me courage up, and when I got on stage, I went "Arr" on the drums, broke the drum bass pedal in two skins, and got off. I figured that was it. I was scared to death. Afterwards, I was sitting at the bar, and Pete came over, Pete Townshend, rock legend. He said, "You, come here." I said, "Mild as you please." "Yes." And Roger Daltrey, lead singer, who was the spokesman then, said, "What are you doing next Monday?" I said, "Nothing." I was working during the day selling plaster. He said, "You'll have to give up work. There's this gig on Monday. If you want to come, we'll pick you up in the van." I said, "Right." And that was it. Moon later claimed he was never formally invited to join The Who permanently. When Ringo Starr asked how he had joined the band, he said he'd just been filling in for the last 15 years. Moon's arrival in The Who radically changed the dynamics of the group. The previous drummer had generally been the peacemaker, as Roger Daltrey and Pete Townshend feuded between themselves, but because of Keith Moon's temperament, the group now had 4 members frequently in conflict. We used to fight regularly, remembered Moon in later years. John Entwistle, the bass player, and I used to have fights. It wasn't very serious. It was more of an emotional, spur-of-the-moment thing. Moon also clashed with Daltrey and Townshend. We really have nothing in common apart from music, he said in a later interview, although Pete Townshend described him as a completely different person to anyone I've ever met. The pair had a rapport in the early years and enjoyed practical jokes and improvised comedy. Moon's drumming style affected the band's musical structure, although bass player John Entwistle initially found Moon's lack of convention in timekeeping a problem. It did create an original sound. And Keith Moon was very, very fond of touring. Since it was the only chance to regularly socialize with his bandmates, and he was generally very restless and bored when he wasn't playing live. This later carried over to other aspects of his life as he acted them out as if his life were one long tour. And these antics earned him the nickname Moon the Loon. Moon the Loon. We do have a little chat room activity. Mandated silliness, the Goon Show. Yes, says Goat. Sky says Pot Awful mentioned. Oh, of course. Goat says famous internet sleuth Pete Townshend. Yes. Yeah, I'm not getting into that. That's been very well documented and very well exonerated. Yes. Moon's style of drumming was considered unique by his bandmates, although they sometimes found his unconventional playing very frustrating. Bass player John Entwistle noted he tended to play faster or slower according to his mood. He wouldn't play across his kit. He'd play zigzag. That's why he had 2 sets of tom-toms. He'd move his arms around like a skier. Roger Daltrey said that Moon just instinctively put drum fills in places other people would have never thought of putting them. Who biographer John Atkins wrote that the group's early test sessions for Pi Records in 1964 show that they seem to have understood how important was Keith Moon's contribution. Contemporary critics questioned his ability to keep time, with biographer Tony Fletcher suggesting that the timing on Tommy was all over the place. Who producer John Astley said, "You didn't think he was keeping time, but he was." In the opinion of Atkins, early recordings of Moon's drumming sound tinny and disorganized, and it wasn't until the recording of Who's Next, with Glenn John's no-nonsense production techniques and the need to keep time to a synthesizer track, that Moon began developing more discipline in the studio. Unlike contemporary rock drummers such as Ginger Baker and John Bonham, by the way, here's a shot of Keith Moon's ultimate drum set. He didn't destroy this one. They do have a photograph of it. But unlike Ginger Baker and John Bonham, Moon hated drum solos and refused to play them in concert. At a Madison Square Garden show during the Who's 1974 tour, Townshend and Entwistle decided to spontaneously stop playing during a song to listen to Moon's drum solo. Moon continued briefly and then stopped, shouting, "Drum solos are boring." On the 23rd of June, 1977, he made a guest appearance at a Led Zeppelin concert in Los Angeles. Moon also aspired to sing lead vocals on some songs. Now, while the other 3 members handled most of the on-stage vocals, Moon would attempt to sing backup, particularly on Can't Explain, Can't Explain. He provided humorous commentary during song announcements, although sound engineer Bob Pridden preferred to mute his vocal microphone during mixing whenever possible. Moon's knack for making his bandmates laugh around the microphone led them to banish him from the studio when vocals were recorded This led to a game in which Moon would sneak in to join the singing. At the end of Happy Jack was a man. Townshend can be heard saying, "I saw you," to Keith Moon as he tries to sneak into the studio. The drummer's interest in surf music and his desire to sing led to his performing lead vocals on early tracks like Bucket T and Barbara Ann, and high backing vocals on other songs such as Pictures of Lily. His performance on Bellboy, Quadrophenia, that saw him abandon his serious vocal performances to sing in character, which gave him, in the words of a biographer, full license to live up to his reputation as a lecherous drunk. It was exactly the kind of performance The Who needed from him to bring them back down to earth. And I'm going to mention again, in the description for this show, there is a link to The Who and the music video for Who Are You? And it is cuts from their studio performances. It's basically the video from their studio recordings. It's actually film, and you get a great idea of Keith Moon not only playing the drums, but he does sing backup. And in those backup shots, you can tell he's making his bandmates laugh constantly. Moon composed I Need You and the instrumental Cobwebs and Strange from the album A Quick One in 1966, the B-sides In the City that he wrote with John Entwistle, and Girl's Eyes from the Who Sell Out sessions featured on 30 Years of Maximum R&B and a 1995 re-release of the Who Sell Out. Dogs Part 2 he composed, and Wasp Man. He also composed The Ox, an instrumental from their debut album, My Generation, with Pete Townshend, John Entwistle, and keyboardist Nicky Hopkins. Tommy's Holiday Camp from Tommy was also credited to Keith Moon because he came up with the idea, but the song was actually written by Pete Townshend, and although there's a misconception that Moon sings on it, the album version is actually Pete Townshend's demo. Moon produced the violin solo on Baba O'Reilly. He sat in on congas with East of Eden at London's Lyceum Ballroom. And he played and by the way, Keith Moon in that solo career, there he is, his first and greatest single, Keith Moon, Don't Worry Baby. And you can see he's got a little bit of a surfer vibe in there with the hair and the woody station wagon and everything else. So, yeah. And that drum set, he played a 4 and later a 5-piece drum kit during the early part of his career. During much of 1964 and 1965, his setups consisted of Ludwig drums and Zildjian cymbals. Zildjian, by the way, the cymbal company, the longest, oldest company in the history of the world, is the Zildjian cymbal company. He began to endorse Premier drums in late 1965 and remained a loyal customer of the company. As you can see in this photo, if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll have to just imagine it if you're listening to the podcast. His first Premier kit was in red sparkle and featured 2 high toms. In 1966, he moved to an even larger kit, but without the customary hi-hat. At the time, he preferred keeping ride rhythms with ride and crash cymbals, but he later reinstalled the hi-hats. His new larger configuration was notable for the presence of 2 bass drums, not just 1. And he's been credited, along with Ginger Baker, as one of the early pioneers of double bass drumming in rock. This kit was not used at the Who's performance in the 1967 Monterey Pop Festival. By 1970, he'd begun to use timbales, gongs, and timpani, and these were included in his setup for the rest of his career. In 1973, Premier's marketing manager, Eddie Haynes, began consulting Keith Moon about specific requirements. At one point, Moon asked Premier Drums to make a white kit with gold-plated fittings. When Haynes said that it would be prohibitively expensive, Moon replied, "Dear boy, do exactly as you feel it should be, but that's the way I want it." And the kit was eventually fitted with copper fittings, and later given to a young Zach Starkey, Moon's godson. He's the son of Ringo Starr, by the way. Ringo Starr's last name is actually Starkey. At an early show, let me find a good Keith Moon shot here. Here you go. At an early show at the Railway Tavern in Harrow, Pete Townshend, "I can't speak in 2026. I don't know what's happened." Pete Townshend smashed his guitar after accidentally breaking it. When the audience demanded he do it again, Keith Moon kicked over his drum kit. Subsequent live sets culminated in what the band later described as auto-destructive art, in which band members, especially Keith Moon and Pete Townshend, elaborately destroyed their equipment. Moon developed a habit. What is it? What is it? Is it me? Is it just the inability to speak? It's an audio podcast, for crying out loud, and I can't talk. I used to do 8 hours on the air, not a flub. Now, I don't know, rented lips or something. Moon developed a habit of kicking over his drums, claiming that he did so in exasperation at the audience's indifference. Townshend later said, "A set of skins is about $300. And after every show, he'd just go bang, 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 and then kick the whole thing over." In May of 1966, Moon discovered that the Beach Boys' Bruce Johnston was visiting London. After the pair socialized for a few days, Moon and Entwistle brought Johnston to the set of Ready, Steady, Go, which made them late for a show with The Who that evening. During the finale of My Generation, an altercation broke out on stage between Moon and Townshend, which was reported on the front page of the New Musical Express the following week. The New Musical Express was kind of like the Rolling Stone magazine of England. Moon and Entwistle left The Who for a week, with Moon hoping to join the Animals, but they later changed their mind and returned. Let's see what we got here in the chat room. Dupa Dupa Doo is here. She says, "Hello, Tom and chat. Please hit the like button." Thank you, Dupa, for the reminder. People saying hi. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet, as verified by independent sources. Dupa is requesting the Terry Nee song. Oh, Terry Nee is here. He's here. Keith Moon's drum set is beautiful, says Dupa. Keith Moon and Ringo Starr, best bromance ever. Terry Nee says dementia. Dementia doesn't make you unable to speak. It makes you unable to read things. Wait a minute. Do I need to play the Terry Nee song right now? Right this minute? No, let me wait. I'll get to the next section. Since Terry's here, I will play it again. I'll play it as often as I can. On The Who's early U.S. package tour at the RKO 58th Street Theater in New York between March and April of 1967, Moon performed 2 or 3 shows a day, kicking over his drum kit after every show. Later that year, during their appearance on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, and I mentioned this on our Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour show, he bribed a stagehand to load gunpowder into one of his bass drums. The stagehand used about 10 times the standard amount. And during the finale of My Generation, he set off the charge, and the intensity of the explosion singed Pete Townshend's hair and embedded a piece of cymbal into Keith Moon's arm. A clip of the incident became the opening scene for the film The Kids Are All Right, the Who film. Although Moon was known for kicking over his drum kit, Haynes claimed that it was done carefully and the kit rarely needed repairs. However, Stands and foot pedals were frequently replaced. The drummer would go through them like a knife through butter. Yes. While he was generally only interested in working with The Who, he did work with other people. He did, let's see here, Smash Your Head, which was John Entwistle's solo album. And he also collaborated with Frank Zappa. That's right, Frank Zappa in a thing or two. He collaborated with Yardbirds guitarist Jeff Beck, Led Zeppelin members Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones on Beck's Bolero, which was a big song on the album Truth. Keith Moon actually may have inspired the name for Led Zeppelin when he supposedly briefly considered leaving The Who in 1966 and spoke with John Entwistle and Jimmy Page about forming a supergroup. Moon remarked that a particular suggestion had gone down like a Led Zeppelin, which was a play on a lead balloon. Although the supergroup was never formed, Page remembered the phrase, later made it the name of his new band. The Beatles, that's right, the Beatles. They became friends with Keith Moon, and this led to occasional collaborations. In 1967, he contributed backing vocals to All You Need Is Love. On the 15th of December, 1969, Moon joined John Lennon's Plastic Ono Band for a live performance at the Lyceum Theatre in London for a UNICEF charity concert. Moon's friendship with John Entwistle led to an appearance on Smash Your Head Against the Wall. There you go. Entwistle's first solo album, and the first solo album by a member of The Who. Moon did not play drums on the album. Jerry Shirley did, with Moon providing percussion. Rolling Stone's John Hogle appreciated Entwistle's decision not to let Moon drum, saying it would have distanced his album from the familiar sound of The Who. Moon became involved in solo work himself when he moved to L.A. during the mid-'70s. MCA released a Moon single in 1974 comprising cover versions of the Beach Boys' Don't Worry Baby and Teenage Idol. The following year, he released his only solo album entitled Two Sides of the Moon. Although it featured Moon on vocals, he played drums on only 3 tracks. Most of the drumming was left to other people, including Ringo Starr. Yes. The album was not well received by critics. It just wasn't. Yeah. During one of his few televised solo drum performances, Moon played a 5-minute drum solo dressed as a cat on transparent acrylic drums filled with water and goldfish. When asked by an audience member what would happen to the kit, he joked that even the best drummers get hungry. His performance was not appreciated by animal lovers, several of whom called the station with complaints. A lot of complaints. Let's see here. Terry Nee is laughing. Terry Nee saying, "Who the blank are you, Tom?" That's a good, Dupa says, nice pull, Terry. Gene Genie says, Cass Elliot, and he died in the same house, and we're both 32. Gene, actually, good observation. I probably shouldn't have read it since it's a spoiler, but that is a good observation, although it was not a house. It was a flat. It was an apartment. They died in the same apartment, and it was here, Curzon Place, that Keith Moon died, along with Cass Elliot, who died in that same flat not too long beforehand. It was owned by Harry Nilsson, legendary artist Harry Nilsson. Yes. Yes. And I'll tell you the whole story of Keith Moon's demise here very, 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 very shortly. It's one of those things. It's one of those things. In the 2007 documentary film, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and play the Terry Nee song right now. We're going to it's only a minute long. We're just going to take a break and play the Terry Nee song. I guess I should have everybody listen to the drum in this song, but we are going to just take a quick break so I can get a swaller of some sody and maybe learn to speak. And then we'll get right back into the story of iconoclastic rock and roll legend, Keith Moon.
Sits in the chat like he paid a fee. Shades indoors, who can he see? Acts a name, he points at me like, come on now, I'm Terry Nee. Head full funk, 0 degree. Smooth brain, confidence, guilt-free. You ask again, he shrugs carefree. Buddy, I'm Terry Nee, he's Terry Nee. Who's Terry Nee? He's Terry Nee. Who's Terry Nee? Say it once, say it twice with me. That's the whole damn song. Terry Nee.
I needed that. I really needed that. There you go, Terry Nee. Let's see here. Back into our chat room. People saying hi. People saying hi. That's, most cheerful chat room on the internet. Terry Nee says, Gina is awful. I don't even know what that means. Doopa-doopa-doo, thank you so much for the $2. That's it. Thank you for the two. Thank you for the two. Terry Nee, thank you for the traditional 99 cents. That's very much appreciated. And Terry Nee says, I'm flush with humbleness. I don't even know what that means. It doesn't sound very humble when you say it like that. But maybe you are humble. I don't know. I can't tell. What do we got here? Team Brittany is here. Team Brittany, everybody. Team Brittany, hope you're doing well. She is a mod on a gigantic LawTube channel and also many other places, as I understand it. Summer Rose loves her song. Yes, Leon Kennedy made a song for the chef's daughter. Jim Fanning says, what's going on in here? I don't know, Jim. Maybe you should tell us, since you seem to know everything. This is one of those, I'm the star of this show because I'm in a chat room. Doesn't do his own show, couldn't have his life depended on it kind of guys. Gene Genie says, bow to the great Terry Nee. People saying hi to the wonderful Team Brittany. Chef is in the house. And people saying hi. If you haven't been in our chat room, you can be. All you got to do is go to the Tom Gulley Show on YouTube, subscribe, get that notification bell lit up, and then you'll be notified of when we have a show. And then you can come in here and have Jim Fanning reveal all the secrets of life to you because he's that kind of guy. He's been hiding his genius under a bushel basket his entire life. His entire life. Just hiding it there. Just hiding it. You know? Just saving it for something important later. In the 2007 documentary film, Amazing Journey, the story of The Who, Roger Daltrey and Pete Townshend reminisced about Keith Moon's talent for dressing as and embodying a variety of characters. They remembered his dream of getting out of music and becoming a Hollywood film actor. Was one of his characters, although Roger Daltrey did not think Moon had the patience and work ethic required of a professional actor. The Who manager, Bill Curbishley, agreed Moon was not disciplined enough to actually turn up or commit to doing stuff. Nevertheless, the drummer landed several acting roles. His first was this one, 1971, a cameo in Frank Zappa's 200 Motels as a nun afraid of dying from an overdose. A little foreshadowing there. Although it only took 13 days to film, fellow cast member Howard Kalin remembers Moon spending off-camera time at the Kensington Garden Hotel bar instead of sleeping. His next film role was J.D. Clover, drummer for the fictional Stormy Tempest at a holiday camp during the early days of British rock and roll. In 1973's That'll Be the Day, he reprised the role for the film's sequel, Stardust. Moon's last film appearance was in 1978's Sextet. And now, what you all came here for. We're going to recount Keith Moon's destructive behavior. And there's much of it to recount. Let me tell you. Yes, there's a great deal of it to recount. Let me see here. Team Brittany says, cool pick of you playing the harp at Tom Gulley Show. Well, Brittany, you and I don't even think I mention this very often, if at all, on this show. There was a decade, an entire decade, where I played the blues harmonica on stage 5 to 6 nights a week here in Dallas, Texas. Team Brittany, who wore the habit better? That's hard to say. Terry says, I have a wrench because I read How to Win Friends and Influence People book by Dale Carnegie. Jim Fanning's making a spectacle of himself in the chat room. And this is the last time I will ever reference Jim Fanning. And he can pass like stink in the wind and go back to his completely obscure, totally unnoticed, regular life. Keith Moon, as we all know, led a destructive lifestyle. During the Who's early days, he began taking amphetamines and in a New Music Express interview said his favorite food was French blues, which is a slang term for an amphetamine. He spent his share of the band's income quickly and was a regular at London clubs such as the Speakeasy, where he had to be thrown out on several occasions, and the Bag o' Nails, which is a great name for a club, by the way. The combination of pills and alcohol escalated into alcoholism and drug addiction. We went through the same stages everybody goes through, the bloody drug corridor, he later reflected. Drinking suited the group a lot better. According to Pete Townshend, Moon began destroying hotel rooms when the Who stayed at the Berlin Hilton on a tour in late 1966. In addition to hotel rooms, Moon destroyed friends' homes and even his own home, including throwing furniture from upper-story windows. Andrew Neil and Matthew Kent estimated that his destruction of hotel toilets and plumbing cost as much as £300,000 British sterling. These acts, often fueled by drugs and alcohol, well, they were Moon's way of demonstrating his eccentricity, and he enjoyed shocking the public with them. Longtime friend and personal assistant Dougal Butler observed, he was trying to make people laugh and be Mr. Funny. He wanted people to love him and enjoy him, but he would go so far. Like a train ride you couldn't stop. In a limousine on the way to the airport, Moon insisted they return to their hotel, saying, I forgot something. At the hotel, he ran back to his room, grabbed the television, and threw it out the window into the swimming pool below. He then jumped back into the limo saying, I nearly forgot. Fletcher argues that the Who's lengthy break between December of 1971 and August of 1972, between the end of their Who's Next tour in 1971 and the beginning of the Quadrophenia sessions, devastated Moon's health. Because without the rigors of lengthy shows and regular touring that had previously kept him in shape, his hard partying lifestyle took a great toll on his body. He did not keep a drum kit or practice and began to deteriorate physically as a result. Around the same time, he became a severe alcoholic, starting the day with drinks. He changed from the lovable boozer he presented himself as to the boorish drunk. David Putnam recalled, the drinking went from being a joke to being a problem. On the movie That'll Be the Day, it was social drinking. By the time the sequel came around, it was just hard drinking. What's the chat room say? Terry Nee says, play for us. I thrive in crushing mediocrity, says Terry Nee. Well, Terry, there's numerous CDs that I play on that are purchasable all over. You can ask Cass Haley if I've ever played a little harmonica here and there. Jay Johnson Band. Sure. Goat says, woo! Randy, the chef, says, say goodnight, Summer. I have to tuck her in. Okay. Goodnight, Summer. Moon's favorite stunt was to flush. By the way, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. Those things are free. They only cost us a click. We love the super chats. We love the memberships. We love the gifted memberships. We love the PayPal where you give the most, I get the most. Google don't get nothing. It's all in our YouTube description or there on YouTube. But man, those likes, shares, all of those retweets, that stuff, we love it. Absolutely love it. That really, really helps us out. With the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing algorithm. Moon's favorite stunt was to flush powerful explosives down toilets. Let me repeat that again. You may be thinking, did I hear that correctly? And yes, you did. His favorite stunt was to flush powerful, not just explosive, but powerful explosives down toilets. According to Fletcher, Moon's toilet pyrotechnics began in 1965 when he purchased a case of 500 cherry bombs. Pete Townshend remembers walking into the bathroom of Moon's hotel room and noticing the toilet had disappeared with only the S-bend remaining. That's the pipe in the back. The drummer explained that since a cherry bomb was about to explode, he had thrown it down the toilet and showed Townshend the case of cherry bombs. And of course, from that moment on, Pete Townshend remembered, we got thrown out of every hotel we ever stayed in. But luckily, he didn't do that forever. No. By the way, Goat, thank you for the $4.99 donation. I appreciate that. Team Brittany says, I love the drum set. It's amazing, isn't it? Goat says, Jay Johnson Band. I'll check that out. Yes, Jay Johnson Band. Royal Blue Moon. Check out that album, Royal Blue Moon. Check it out. Long live Jay Johnson. Rest in peace. Keith Moon did not keep throwing cherry bombs down toilets. Thank goodness. Yeah, he moved from cherry bombs to M80s and then to sticks of dynamite, which became his explosive of choice. All that porcelain flying through the air was quite unforgettable, Moon remembered. I never realized dynamite was so powerful. I'd been used to penny bangers before, which are just cheap fireworks. He quickly developed a reputation for destroying bathrooms and blowing up toilets. The destruction mesmerized him and enhanced his public image as rock's premier hellraiser. Tony Fletcher wrote that no toilet in a hotel or changing room was safe until Moon had exhausted his supply of explosives. Pete Entwistle recalled being close to Moon on tour, and both were often involved in blowing up toilets. In a 1981 Los Angeles Times interview, he admitted, "A lot of times when Keith was blowing up toilets, I was standing behind him with the matches." Once, a hotel manager called Moon in his room and asked him to lower the volume on his cassette recorder because it made too much noise. In response, the drummer asked him to come up to the room, excused himself to go to the bathroom, put a lit stick of dynamite in the toilet, and shut the bathroom door. Upon returning, he asked the manager to stay for a moment as he wanted to explain something. Following the explosion, Moon turned the recorder back on and said, "That, dear boy, was noise. This is the ooh." Shall we discuss the Flint, Michigan incident? Let's discuss the Flint, Michigan incident, shall we? Chat room, shall we do that? Doopa-doopa-doo, along with Team Brittany, loves the drum set. Team Brittany rocks, man. She's been a great supporter and helped me out a lot, and she's got a lot going on. Goat says, holy hell. Team Brittany says, I respect Dynamite a lot more after watching Lost. Don't we all? Don't we all? What was it? Professor Zog or whatever his name was? Anyway, on the 23rd of August, 1967, on tour, opening for Herman's Hermits, Moon celebrated his 21st birthday at a Holiday Inn in Flint, Michigan. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Flint, Michigan. It's where Michael, the guy that directed Fahrenheit 9/11 and all that, Michael Moore is from. It used to be a hardcore automotive factory town. And it's not pretty. It's a hard-working, hardcore town that was decimated when the auto industry left, created the Rust Belt. But in August of 1967, it would have been just a hardcore factory town. I can't imagine that the Holiday Inn there was awful, but it was, after all, a Holiday Inn. John Entwistle later said he decided that if it was publicized that it was his 21st birthday, he'd be able to drink. Well, Keith Moon immediately began drinking upon his arrival in Flint, Michigan. The Who spent the afternoon visiting local radio stations with Nancy Lewis, the band's publicist. And Moon posed for a photo outside of the hotel in front of a Happy Birthday Keith sign put up by the hotel management, you know, with the letters. According to Nancy Lewis, Moon was drunk by the time the band went on stage at Atwood Stadium. And we're just warming up. Returning to the hotel, Moon started a food fight, and soon cake began flying through the air. The drummer knocked out part of his front tooth. At the hospital, doctors could not give him an anesthetic due to his inebriation before removing the remainder of the tooth. Back at the hotel, a melee erupted. Fire extinguishers were set off, guests and objects thrown into the swimming pool, and a piano was reportedly destroyed. The chaos ended only when the police arrived with guns drawn. A furious Holiday Inn management presented the groups with a bill for $24,000, which today would be $226,000, and that was reportedly paid by Herman's Hermits tour manager. Townshend claimed that the Who were banned for life from all of the Holiday Inns in the world, but they stayed at a Holiday Inn in Rochester, New York. A week later, Holiday Inn, they're looking for anything they can get. He also disputed a widely held belief that Moon drove a Lincoln Continental into the hotel's swimming pool. However, Roger Daltrey, in an interview, stated the group was banned from an entire state's worth of Holiday Inns, presumably Michigan. He also claimed that while he had not personally seen a car in the swimming pool, he had seen a bill for damages and removal. Now, the next thing I'm about to tell you about is an incredible moment in rock history, and you can definitely see this on YouTube. And I'll mention again, I've included in the show's description on YouTube a clip of the band recording in the studio the song Who Are You? And Keith Moon is prominently featured, and it's pretty amazing. Yes. Team Brittany says, Holiday Inn Express? I did stay in a Holiday Inn Express last night. Goat says, I hear the tap water tastes great in Flint. I don't know if they've, even to this day, gotten that water situation straightened out in Flint. Terry says, we're in the collapse, if you say so. Yeah, it's the only water that's solid. Team Brittany. Terry Nee says, Allentown, Billy Joel. That very much the same kind of thing, Terry. We're living here in Allentown, and they're closing all the factories down. And Moon's lifestyle began to undermine his health and reliability. During the 1973... I will learn to speak before 2026 is out. During the 1973 Quadrophenia tour at the Who's debut U.S. date at the Cow Palace in California, Noon ingested a mixture of sedatives and brandy. Sedatives and brandy? Yes, sedatives and brandy. During the concert, Moo passed out on his drum kit during Won't Get Fooled Again. The band stopped, and a group of roadies carried Moon off stage. They gave him a shower, an injection of cortisone, and sent him back on stage after 30 minutes. But Moon passed out again during Magic Bus and was again removed from the stage. The band continued without him for several songs before Pete Townshend asked, "Can anyone play the drums? I mean, somebody good." A drummer in the audience, Scott Halpin, came up and played the rest of the show. And you can watch this, he kicked butt. He knew all the songs. And Scott Halpin, was an artist and a musician and later played in a lot of bands and things himself. He wasn't just a schmo. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't a schmo. During the opening date of the band's March 1976 U.S. tour at the Boston Garden, Moon passed out over his drum kit after 2 numbers and the show was rescheduled. The next evening, Moon systematically destroyed everything in his hotel room, cut himself doing so, and passed out. He was discovered by manager Bill Kerbishley, who took him to a hospital telling him, "I'm going to get a doctor to get you nice and fit so you're back within 2 days because I want to break your blanking jaw. You have blanked this band around so many times and I'm not having it anymore." Doctors told Kerbishley that if he had not intervened, Moon would have bled to death. Some suggested at this point Daltrey and Entwistle seriously considered firing Keith Moon, but decided that doing so would make his life even worse. John Entwistle has said that Moon and The Who reached their live peak in 1975 to 1976. At the end of the 1976 U.S. tour in Miami that August, Moon became delirious and was treated in Hollywood Memorial Hospital for 8 days. The group was concerned that he would be unable to complete the last leg of the tour, which ended at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, Moon's last public show. During the band's recording sabbatical between 1976 and 1978, Moon gained a considerable amount of weight. By the time of The Who's invitation-only show at the Gaumont State Cinema on the 15th of December, 1977, for The Kids Are All Right, Moon was visibly overweight and had difficulty sustaining a solid performance. After recording Who Are You?, Townshend refused to follow the album with a tour unless Moon stopped drinking, and said that if Moon's playing did not improve, he'd be fired. Roger Daltrey later denied threatening to fire him, but said that by this time, Moon was out of control. And he certainly was. Chat room says, Team Brittany says, I guess he got fooled again. Team Brittany says, is there another on board who can land a plane? Is there anyone on board who can land a plane? Is there anyone who can play the drums? You can see that. It's awesome. Because The Who's early stage act relied on smashing instruments and owing to Moon's enthusiasm for damaging hotels, the group were in debt for much of the 60s. Entwistle estimated they lost about 150,000 pounds. Even when the group became relatively financially stable after Tommy, Moon continued to rack up debts. He bought a number of cars and gadgets and flirted with bankruptcy. His recklessness with money reduced his profit from the group's 1975 UK tour to 47 pounds. About 502 pounds in today's money. Yeah. Moon's first serious relationship was with Kim Kerrigan. Who he started dating in January of 65 after she saw the Who play at Le Disque a Go-Go in Bournemouth. By the end of the year, she discovered she was with child. Her parents were furious. They met with the Moons to discuss their options, and she moved into the Moon family home in Wembley. She and Moon were married on the 17th of March, 1966 at the Brent Register office, and their daughter Amanda was born on the 12th of July that year. The marriage and child were kept secret from the press until May of 1968. Moon was apparently occasionally violent towards Kim. If we went out after I had a Mandy, she said later, if I talked to someone, he'd lose it. We'd go home and he'd start a fight with me. He loved Amanda, but his absences during touring and fondness for practical jokes made the relationship uneasy when she was very young. He had no idea how to be a father. He was too much of a child himself, said Kim. From 1971 to 1975, Moon owned Tara, a home in Chertsey, where he initially lived with his wife and daughter. The Moons entertained extravagantly at home and owned a number of cars. Jack McCullough, then working for Track Records, the Who's label, recalls Moon ordered him to purchase a milk float to store in the garage at Tara. And that's a vehicle that is specifically designed for the delivery of fresh milk. It's like a small bus with an open, flatbed in the back. In 1973, Kim, convinced that neither she nor anyone else could moderate Keith's behavior, left her husband and took the child with her. She sued for divorce in 1975 and later married the keyboard player from The Faces, Ian McLagan. Some believe that Moon never truly recovered from the loss of his family. He believes Kim was the only woman Moon ever loved. McLaughlin commented that Moon couldn't handle it. Moon would harass them with phone calls, and on one occasion before Kim sued for divorce, He invited McLaughlin over for a drink at a Richmond pub and sent several heavies to break into McLaughlin's home on Fife Road and look for Kim, forcing her to hide in a walk-in closet. Kim McLaughlin died in a car accident in Austin, Texas on the 2nd of August, 2006. But right afterwards, Keith Moon began a relationship with Swedish model Annette Walter Lax, who later said that Moon was so sweet when he was sober that I was just living with him in the hope he would kick all of his craziness. She begged Malibu neighbor Larry Hagman, that's right, JR, that's right, from I Dream of Jeannie, to check Moon into a clinic to dry out. But when doctors recorded Moon's chemical intake at breakfast, a bottle of champagne, Courvoisier, and amphetamines, they concluded there was no hope for his rehabilitation. They just went, forget it. It's not going to happen. Yeah. Moon enjoyed being the life of the party, obviously. Early in the Who's career, Moon got to know the Beatles, and he would join them at clubs, forming a particularly close friendship with Ringo Starr. He became friends with band members from a band called Bonzo Dog Doodah, and the trio would drink and play practical jokes together. One of them remembers an occasion where he and Moon tore apart a pair of trousers, and an accomplice later looking for one-legged trousers. That's not very funny. In the early 1970s, Moon helped Vivian Stanshall, one of these band members, with his Radio Flashes show, filling in for the vacationing John Peel. Moon filled in for Peel in 1973's A Touch of the Moon, a series of 4 programs produced by John Walters. Guitarist Joe Walsh enjoyed socializing with Keith Moon. In an interview with Guitar World magazine, he recalled the drummer taught me how to break things. In 1974, and this is a bad combination, folks, bad combination, Moon struck up a friendship with actor Oliver Reed while working on the film version of Tommy. Oliver Reed was a big player in that movie. Although Reed matched Moon drink for drink, Reed could appear on the set the next morning ready to perform. Oliver Reed, a legendary drinker. Moon, on the other hand, would cost several hours of filming time. Oliver Reed later said that Moon showed me the way to insanity. Now, this next portion here is something that apparently just destroyed Keith Moon. Dougal Butler began working for The Who in 1967, becoming Moon's personal assistant the following year to help Moon stay out of trouble. He remembers managers Kit Lambert and Chris Stamp saying, "We trust you with Keith, but if you ever want to try any time off for a holiday or some sort of rest, let us know and we'll pay for it." And Dougal Butler never took them up on the offer. He was very loyal. He followed Keith Moon when the drummer relocated to Los Angeles, but felt that the drug culture was so prevalent at the time, and it was very bad for Keith Moon. He said, "My job was to have eyes in the back of my head." Pete Townshend agreed, saying that by 1975, Dougal Butler had no influence over Keith Moon whatsoever. And although he was a loyal companion to Moon, the lifestyle eventually became too much for him. He phoned Bill Kerbishley, the band's manager, and said, they knew they need to move back to England or one of them might die. Butler quit in 1978 and later wrote of his experiences in a book entitled Full Moon, The Amazing Rock and Roll Life of Keith Moon. And as bad as that was, this next thing is even worse. On the 4th of January, 1970, Keith Moon accidentally killed his friend, driver, and bodyguard, Neil Boland, outside the Red Lion pub in Hatfield, Hertfordshire. Pub patrons had begun to attack his Bentley, and Moon, drunk, began driving to escape them, and he hit Neil Boland. After an investigation, the coroner ruled Boland's death was an accident. Moon was charged with a number of offenses, but received an absolute discharge. Those close to Keith Moon said that he was haunted by Boland's death for the rest of his life. According to legendary groupie Pamela Desbar, Moon had nightmares, which would awake them both about the incident, and said he had no right to be alive. Well, we all know where this was leading to. In mid-1978, Moon moved into Flat 12, 9 Curzon Place, Mayfair, London, renting from, yes, Harry Nilsson. Singer Cass Elliot of the Mamas and the Papas had died there 4 years earlier at the age of 32. Keith Moon at this time was the age of 32. Now, Nilsson was concerned about renting the flat to Moon, believing it was cursed. But Pete Townshend disagreed, assuring him that lightning wouldn't strike twice in the same place. After moving in, Keith Moon began a prescribed course of Heminvern. That's clomethazole, a sedative, to alleviate his alcohol withdrawal symptoms. He wanted to get sober, but because of his fear of psychiatric hospitals, he wanted to do it at home. Clomethazole is discouraged for unsupervised detoxification because of its active potential. It's got a tendency to induce tolerance and its risk of death when mixed with alcohol. These pills were prescribed by Jeffrey Diamond, a physician who was unaware of Keith Moon's lifestyle. Okay? So this drug becomes less effective the more you use it. And if you mix it with alcohol, there's a great risk of death. So you've got Keith Moon, a known lover of pills, who, even if he stays on this regimen, the pills become less effective at keeping him off alcohol. Diamond prescribed a bottle of 100 pills, instructing him to take 1 pill when he felt a craving for alcohol, but not more than 3 per day. In September of 78, Moon was having difficulty playing the drums, according to one of the roadies. After seeing Moon in the studio trying to overdub drums for The Kids Are All Right, he said, after 2 or 3 hours, he got more and more sluggish. He could barely hold a drumstick. On September the 6th, Moon and his girlfriend were guests of, Paul and Linda McCartney at a preview of the film, The Buddy Holly Story. After dining with the McCartneys at Peppermint Park in Covent Garden, Moon and his girlfriend returned to their flat. He watched a film, The Abominable Dr. Phibes, which, by the way, is an incredibly good movie, and asked his girlfriend to cook him lamb cutlets, which his girlfriend had stated was his favorite meal. When she objected, Moon replies, "If you don't like it, you can blank off." Those were the last words of Keith Moon. Moon then took some clomethazole tablets. When his girlfriend checked on him the following afternoon, she discovered he was no longer with us. The band's manager phoned the flat around 5 p.m. looking for Moon, and the doctor gave him the news. Curbishly, the manager told Pete Townshend, who informed the rest of the band. John Entwistle was giving an interview to two journalists when he was interrupted by a phone call with the news of Keith Moon's death. When asked about the band's future plans, Entwistle burst into tears and quickly ended the interview. Keith Moon's death came shortly after the release of their 8th studio album, Who Are You? On the album cover, he is straddling a chair to hide his weight gain. The words, "Not to be taken away," are on the back of the chair. Police determined that there were 32 clomethiazole pills in Moon's system. 6 were digested. The other 26 were undigested when he died. Max Glatt, an authority on alcoholism, wrote in the Sunday Times that Moon should have never been given the drug. He was cremated on the 13th of September, 1978, at the Golders Green Crematorium in London, and his ashes were scattered in the Gardens of Remembrance. Pete Townshend persuaded Daltrey and Entwistle to carry on touring as The Who, although he later said it was his means of coping with Keith Moon's death, and completely irrational, bordering on insane. Bruce Elder from AllMusic said, when Keith Moon died, The Who carried on and were far more competent and reliable musically, but that isn't what sells rock records. In November of 1978, Faces drummer Kenny Jones joined The Who. Townshend later said that Jones was one of the few British drummers that could fill Keith's shoes. Jones left The Who in 1988, and drummer Simon Phillips toured with the band the following year. From 1996 to 2025, The Who's drummer was Ringo Starr's son, Zach Starkey, who as a child had been given a drum kit by Moon, who he called Uncle Keith. Moon's drumming has been praised by critics from all over. I won't bother reading those. The new Book of Rock list ranked Moon number 1 on its list of 50 greatest rock and roll drummers. He was ranked number 2 on the 2011 Rolling Stone Best Drummers of All Time poll. Behind John Bonham, by the way. Several rock drummers, including Neil Peart, have cited Moon as an influence. Many bands, The Jam, for instance, have paid homage to Moon on various songs and album covers. Animal, one of Jim Henson's Muppet characters, may have been based on Keith Moon due to their similar hair, eyebrows, personality, and drumming style. Ray Davies lauded Moon's drumming during his speech for the Kinks' introduction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1990, saying Keith Moon changed the sound of drumming. God bless his beautiful heart, Ozzy Osbourne told Sounds magazine a month after the drummer's death, people will be talking about Keith Moon till they die, man. Clem Burke of Blondie said, early on, all I cared about was Keith Moon and The Who. When I was about 11 or 12, my favorite part of drum lessons was the last 10 minutes when I'd get to sit at the drum set and play along to my favorite record. I'd bring My Generation. At the end of the song, the drums go nuts. My Generation was a turning point for me because before that it was all Charlie Watts and Ringo type of stuff. And on and on and on. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have to tell you tonight about rock legend taken too soon, Keith Moon. Keith Moon. There you are. That's all I got. What do we got here in the chat room? Tommy, can you hear me? Says Terry Nee. Goat says 32. Heavy, man. Heavy. Heavy, man. Anyway. All right. Unless we got anything cool from the chat room, I'd like to thank our just wonderful friends, Doopadoopadoo, Goat, and Terry Nee for their super chats tonight. Anybody wants to, please like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. We need that so bad. It's the algorithm, man. It's the algorithm. Just go ahead and subscribe. You don't ever have to watch another show. Just stay subscribed and, just flip past it. Tomorrow night on the program, what is it? Oh, Spider number 16. I know you guys love shows about spiders. This is the bizarre, weird tale of the oldest living spider known to man and the woman who loved him, or her. I think it is a female spider, actually. So there you go. What's this? I've got somebody. Oh, I've got a nice YouTube comment already. Yes. Anyway, let's see here. That's all I got. I'll tell you what, I'll give you 1 minute to figure out if you have any more questions. By the way, Wednesday, Magic 8 Ball. Thursday, the disappearance of Maura Murray. And Sunday, one of my top 5 TV shows, A Man Called Shenandoah. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to figure out if you got any more questions. And I'm either going to sing the Shenandoah theme song or I'm going to play the Terry Nee song. Okay? Oh, Shenandoah, you're doomed to... All right, I'm just kidding. Play the Terry Nee song.
Sits in the chat like he paid a fee. Shades indoors, who can he see? Acts a name, he points at me like, come on now, I'm Terry Nee. Head full funk, 0 degree. Smooth brain, confidence, guilt-free. You ask again, he shrugs carefree. Buddy, I'm Terry Nee, he's Terry Nee. Who's Terry Nee? He's Terry Nee. Who's Terry Nee? Say it once, say it twice with me. That's the whole damn song. Terry Nee.
Oh, yeah. I can't get enough of that. We got a few more comments here in our chat room. We do have an NFL playoff game tonight. It is Texans or Steelers. Goats haven't asking me who I got. Well, I'm not crazy about the Texans because I live in Dallas, and Dallas and Houston don't get along that well. But more than that, Aaron Rodgers is an old guy. I'm an old guy, so I'd prefer to see the Steelers. And I also like Mike Tomlin quite a bit. I do like him. So that's what I'm going for. Dupa, sorry about your Eagles. Very sorry. Goat says, want to see old man Rodgers crush it. Me too. I'd like to see that. I would just like to see that. I really would. So that's all we got tonight, kids. And I'm looking at that old clock on the wall. And it says, time for me to Amscray. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And with all that being said, I got another chat. Same here. A lot of friends. Love Pittsburgh. Okay. And with all that being said, thank you all for being here. You guys are the greatest. I super appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, blah, blah, blah. But we need that. We need that. You're smart. You're popular. Tell your friends. Suggest to them, hey, check this guy out. With all that being said, the only thing left to say is, till next time, We'll see you next time.
Tom Gulley's back. Yeah, Tom Gulley's back. We're on the track. We're never off the track. Yeah. Tom Gulley's on the air. Doesn't take much. Yeah. Tom Gulley's on the air. Doesn't take much. Yeah. Yeah, Tom's back. He's picking up the slack. The Tom Gulley Show is